As soccer takes center stage this summer, Comcast helps bring the experience home to America. As the exclusive Spanish-language home of the tournament in the U.S., Telemundo is set to present its most expansive coverage ever. 700 hours of programming, live on-site presence at all 104 matches. And with multi-view and real-time 4K, Xfinity will deliver the most innovative and immersive sports viewing experience for fans watching on Telemundo, Peacock, Fox, and FS1. Learn more at ComcastCorporation.com.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire, the no-show. Who set you back because they didn't show up on day one, or day two, or ever again. And now your product launch is delayed because you're talking to alien abduction podcasters to track them down. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can help make sure your next hire sticks. In fact, businesses who use LinkedIn are 24% less likely to reopen a role in the next 12 months. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
And I followed an awesome coach at Capital, Todd Simas, who is still teaching on campus. Like, I'm not Todd Simas. I'm not Greg Lawrence. Like, I'm going to come in and this is my program and this is how I run my program, and just need to believe in what you do and know what's important to you, and if you focus on that, then you're going to be fine.
This is the Turnaround Series presented by the Coach and Coordinator Network. At the Coach and Coordinator Network, we're connecting coaches to the ideas, systems, and resources that help programs improve. You'll hear about two of those platforms today, and both can be instrumental in turning your program around. Because when you're building a program, hard work matters, but so do the right ideas, the right plan, and access to coaches who have done it before. That is what this series is built to deliver. Hosted by Michael Chavez, the Turnaround Series breaks down the leadership, culture, and football decisions that drive real change inside a program. Let's get into it.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Today, we're excited to have Coach Kevin Hastin on the Turnaround Podcast. My name is Michael Chavez, head coach at Troy High School in Southern California. I am graced with the privilege of hosting the series through the Coach and Coordinator Podcast. Coach Hastin, our guest, has led several amazing turnarounds. First at Troy High School, Coach inherited a very solid program and then continued to build upon the success of Jim Burton with 4 playoff appearances in 5 seasons. After his success there, Coach Hastin moved his family to Oregon, where he had family ties in the coaching community through his uncle and cousin, as he took over a struggling Newburgh football program. The 7 seasons before him produced a .299 winning percentage and 1 season above 500. Coach's last 2 seasons alone produced a 13-4 combined record, a conference title, and Newburgh was described as one of the state's fastest rising programs. In fact, the 2019 team broke a win total ceiling that had stood since 1960. Coach then took his talents across Highway 99 to rival Sherwood High School, the school where his girls were planning to attend. He took over for a legendary coach there. At the onset, Coach struggled to an 0-4 start and then experienced a dramatic mid-season turnaround wherein Sherwood secured a conference championship, made the playoffs, amassed 2 playoff victories, and finished 7-5 overall. After a short stint as an assistant at Owyhee, Coach's journey then led him to Capital, where he took over for a former powerhouse program that fell on hard times. Coach was the 3rd head coach in as many years and established his culture, and then proceeded to put the program on the path to success while finishing 5-5 in his final season and making the playoffs before taking on the challenge of rebuilding a former Idaho powerhouse, Meridian High School. Coach, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's an honor to be here and love connecting with you always and talk a little football and share my experiences, and I hope it helps. So
love it. Coach, let's start off first with Troy, your experience at Troy. So, you took over a program wherein you were an assistant for several years, and taking over that program, how did you find yourself building upon the success of what Jim had done, what John had done, and kind of making it your own? And what challenges did you face when doing that?
Well, first off, I just want to say I owe so much to Jim and John and the impact they've had on my coaching journey. And as a young college graduate coming out of the game, those guys showed me how to do it the right way. And, I'm just extremely blessed to have worked under them. And it was definitely not a rebuild. It was a kind of a brand, like put my staple on the program as far as like the weight room and what we do schematically. I just built upon what Jim had done prior to me, and there wasn't much contrast. There wasn't much difference. He ran a great program, and kids were disciplined, focused. He focused on relationships, attitude, effort, just all the things that I believe in. And I just made it mine. And I'm a huge weight room guy, as you are too, Mike. And that's where you build your teams and you build your culture. And there's so many coaches. I shouldn't say so many, but there's the coaches out there that just hand over their weight room to a company or something like that. I mean, I find as much joy in teaching the weight room as I do football. So it's, that was a huge part of Troy and actually every program that I've ran. So just kind of a rebrand. So Troy's an amazing place and definitely left a mark on me as a coach, as a person. The relationships that I've built there are strong, just guys that I could count on and that I keep in touch with. And, it's all about the relationships and great kids that I coach there, just unbelievable young men that have gone on to do great things. And so it's just awesome to hear from those kids and some of the past players. So Troy's a special place and, definitely left a mark on me.
I love that. Coach, your one change I specifically remember you making is, you took the wing tee that Coach had run, traditional under center wing tee. I know he kind of dabbled around with that pistol, but you kind of made your own mark with the pistol wing tee. I specifically remember you having that kind of desire to imprint the way you wanted to do it. What led you to make that change? What advantages do you think it gave you? And then, in some regards, what disadvantages did you think it lent itself as well?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with the quarterback I had at the time, Kyle Bloomer.
Yes.
And we had dabbled in it gyms last year with Nathan Connolly, who was a dynamic quarterback. And we had my cousin who was the head coach at Tualatin High School in Oregon. He had been running the pistol wing, and he ran the wing tee run game with a lot of, Sheldon High School was a big powerhouse program and threw the ball really well and kind of just blended the two concepts with the passing game out of the pistol that my cousin, he studied Sheldon pretty closely. And so he put on a clinic for us and, learned a lot of the pistol from him. And what I like about it is the wing tee run game with the ability to throw the ball and use your quarterback as a runner, as a threat in the run game. And so that kind of opened the door, looking at the wing tee out of the pistol. And I just feel like it poses a lot of issues for defenses. And they have to prepare for something they never see, and what you lose out of it, is the deception, hiding the football, so I've blended under center and still run the wing tee out of the gun. And you see a lot of spread schools running buck, out of gun and buck sweeps. It's a deadly play. So as you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So Coach, I think that's one thing that we need to realize is once you have a system, you can manipulate it several different ways. I've watched the evolution of your offense in particular as we've clinicked over the last, 10 years. And it's so cool to see how sometimes you're far more traditional under center. Sometimes you're far more gun centric and not pass centric, but pass heavy. And then, kind of what you're talking about, what you're going to be like at Meridian, much more under center, tough, hard nosed, traditional wing tee. And I think it's important for any coach that's taken over a program to realize that whatever you run, just ensure that it's a system that can adapt to the talent and something that you believe in, that you believe can gain an edge. And I think that's tremendously important, the work that you did at Troy, while, still maintaining the DNA that's there, but adding your own brand to it as well.
100%. Yeah. If I would say like evaluating your roster as soon as possible is like, I would look at Newburgh, my time at Newburgh, and now here, my 4 years at Newburgh, and I've been at Meridian for about 4 months, evaluating the roster as fast as possible. And I see so much of Newburgh in this Meridian roster, just gritty, tough. Like I got a ton of wrestlers on my roster. Our wrestling program is second to none. Just some tough kids, and they smash the weight room. They absolutely love the weight room. So I just see a physical, hard nose on defense. We're going to be able to run through people, and it's totally different. Like I would put Sherwood and Capital in kind of the same box, just the athleticism of the receivers and the quarterback, maybe not as many running backs, more guys that could stretch the field. And so like the pistol was kind of the key to our success at those two schools. So just evaluating the roster and being able to adapt to your roster, I feel is critical. And I have the ability to do both, like smash the ball and run at you and run the wing under center, or make you defend the entire field, sideline to sideline. So I feel like you have to have that.
That's tremendous. I agree. And that's what is going to be cool to explore with your time at Newburgh. And I think you hit something on the head, is the relationships and getting to know your kids, AKA your roster, as soon as possible, so that you can find out how you're going to utilize that talent. So now let's transition from Troy into your job at Newburgh. And you had just spoke about how you really have to get to know your kids well and create those relationships in order to find out who they are and what kind of team you're going to be. And moreover, I know that the weight room is extremely important to you. And I know that that was a priority at Newburgh when you went over. Speak to us, Coach, about both of those things: the process of building the relationships at Newburgh, and then the weight room component that you implemented.
Wherever I've gone, the most important thing, and number one in my book, is building relationships with the boys as fast as possible. And that's been my priority at every school that I've been at. And Newburgh, just thinking back to 2017, and it's a little foggy, but I'll do the best I can. But if I remember right, the football program they were not lifting together as a team. And coming from California, I realized that I took that for granted. And the other states in Oregon and Idaho, that's the 6-period model of your entire football team training together. That's just not the case in Oregon or Idaho. So it's something that I had to develop, and I felt like I had to get there as fast as I could, with the mindset that I need to build relationships. I need to find out who these kids are. I need to see them struggle in the weight room and how they respond to adversity, because I feel like that's the biggest piece you take away from the weight room is you see them struggle, you see them persevere, you see them push themselves, you see, leadership in the weight room, and you start developing that leadership in the off season. And so I just tried to get to that point as fast as possible at Newburgh. And part of the process was building relationships with coaches on campus. And so like there was two like solid, prominent programs on campus with wrestling and track. And so I wanted to foster, a relationship with the head coaches, who ended up being great friends. And we align in so many ways, as far as like building culture, discipline, toughness, how you treat people is everything. And so it just so happens that our values aligned tremendously, and it was seamless. And so I was able to build those relationships, and with, my AD and my principal and fellow coaches on campus, to where I was able to, year 2, we were able to kick off a 0-period class. And by the time I left, it was 80 athletes training from 6:30 in the morning to like 7:45 every morning. And so when I got there, everything was scattered. Kids were training separate. But now we had every wrestler, every football player, every track athlete grinding in the morning. And it was a culture builder. Like the kids, like their confidence was just through the roof. So I feel like that was the biggest piece that I brought to Newburgh, was the accountability in the weight room, training as a program. And it definitely showed on the field. We were definitely a more physical program towards the end of my time there. So
let's talk about that component of getting your admin on board with that, I guess, that priority of yours. We had Brett Mertens. He used to be at Cream Lutheran back when you were in OC, and he actually took a job at Montrose in Colorado. And they didn't have the same situation as you. They didn't have a 6-period athletics. And so he went to his admin and he said, "Hey, is this good for kids that we have this class?" And they said, "Well, yeah, but we've never done it. It can't happen." And he's like, "Well, it's good for kids. Let's explore it and let's make it happen." They did. So what was the strategy that you used to your admin, or was your admin so supportive of you that they just said, "Hey, let's just create the class"? Or was that a process for you? How'd you go about that?
it takes the right principal. Like your principal needs to believe in it, and you need to sell it to your principal. And to be honest with you, it didn't just impact football. Like it impacted like the whole athletic department, and it bled into the culture of the school. And we had a new principal come on my second year at Newburgh, and she was all about it. Like she believed in it. She had a daughter that was in softball. A lot of the softball athletes were in the class. And so once you get the big thing is get your principal on board, and your AD on board. I was able to do the same thing at Capitol. Like when I showed up at Capitol, kids were training every other day in different periods, and it's just not the same, because once you've seen it and we're introduced to it in California, like at Troy, when you have 70 guys in there pushing each other, like it's just different. And the impact that you're making on the boys. And you're pushing them and they're growing and they're getting better. And so once you see it, you know how it's done. And so I was able to do the same thing at Capitol, like showed up there, they're in the classrooms training every other day. In my mind, there's not much progress being made. And then by the time I left, we had every JV varsity player in our second period class. So we had 70 guys training together. And then seventh period, which is kind of a unique thing, like our freshmen are not on the high school campus. They're at the junior highs, but was able to bust them over because their school day finished before the high school, bust them over and get them in seventh period. So now the freshmen was training together. So it took 3 years to get there, but I just feel like it's so important because it allows you to coach your boys year round, to be around, to coach them up as young men. So it's been super beneficial to me.
Coach, walk us through that process, because I know obviously you're highly versed in the weight room, but correct me if I'm wrong, at Newburgh, were you training the track team and softball and wrestling and football? Or were they all football players that bled into other sports?
Well, it started with football and wrestling, and the door, you can't close the door on anybody. Like, and we don't want to. It's open for any athlete, and the level of like it's going to be a lot harder than your PE class weight workout. It's going to be longer. You have to get up early, so you have to be a committed athlete. So it started with football and wrestling because honestly, they didn't have a choice. Like their coaches are going to be there. They're going to be there. But then, other sports on campus are like, hey, what's this about? And want to be a part of this, want to get better. And so we had other athletes in there, basketball, a lot of our football players, which I love, I push them out. I want them to be on the track or playing baseball. But if they're not playing a spring sport, they're on the track, And so the track program was represented as well. And so it was something that was contagious that other sports wanted to be a part of. And, it paid off for sure.
That's awesome. I love that part.
Yeah.
Let's deep dive real quick into the specific ways that you accelerated building relationships with the kids at Newburgh. So I know you explained with the staff, and I know you're a very relational person. You love to engage with people one-on-one. Was that your strategy with the players? Did you have meetings with them? Did you set up a council? How did you go about building the relationships with the kids at Newburgh faster than you had in the past?
Yeah. So Chris Casey was the head coach at George Fox, and I met with him a couple times, and he shared that he met with every single athlete on his roster, which his roster is huge. It's 100 plus, and he spent close to an hour with every single athlete talking face to face, and he had a goal sheet, that he had made up, and I kind of just followed that process, and I did something like that at Troy, but not to this level. But I met with everybody in the program as soon as the season was over, and we talked about strength goals, personal goals, team goals, and I had them put it on paper, and kept the goal sheet, and we talked about it. Came back and reviewed it, at least a couple times in the off season. So spending time with them and talking with them one-on-one I found to be impactful. And then just showing up, man, being there every day and showing that you care. Going to a big thing is like, I can't tell you how many wrestling matches I went to, basketball games, baseball games, and show them that, hey, I care about you more than football. That goes a long way, and we did other things like senior trips. Like we went whitewater rafting on the Moppin, out in Moppin, and just that's something I learned from Jim, back at Troy with the senior trip, and yeah, paintballing and stuff like that.
Yeah, we just went paintballing this last year.
Yeah, man, that's what it's all about. And when you do that for the boys and you show them that you care about them, they're going to run through a wall. And you're able to, when you invest as much as you do, Mike, is you're able to push them farther, I feel like. And so that's, it's what I believe in. And I was it's something I've learned from my mentors, from Jim, John, my uncle, Craig, who I coached with for 5 years, was a head coach for 45 years. Like, it's all about investing in the boys.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. Let's talk about the on-field performance. So I know, obviously, year 1 and year 2 was a build. If I'm correct, if I'm not mistaken, I think you had 2 wins year 1 and 3 wins year 2, and then it flipped to 8 wins year 3. Is that right? At Newber?
Year 2, we went 5-5 and made the playoffs. And so year 2, boy, talk about a group that overachieved. Thinking back at that group, like they probably made just as big of a jump as year 3. I felt like they overachieved and went to the playoffs, got our butts kicked by Clackamas, and just they handed it to us, and we're not physically ready for them. And they were a very good team. That I think they won the whole thing or went to the finals and lost it, but they were a tough program and kicked our butts, and that was the motivational force in the off season. So it was on in the off season, man. We wanted to get physical, but hammering the weights, and our team camp, year 3, just so happened Clackamas was at it. So we got after it in the early summer, and we were a different program. We were physical, and kids were buying into what we were doing offensively, defensively, and I knew we were a different program at that point.
Yeah, that's great, Coach. I want to hear about that component of because I'm kind of in the same boat now as we're entering into a new league, and it's kind of like, it kind of sucks. I don't know if it's just the way that I am or the way that humans are, but you kind of have to see what it is that you need to be and get beat by it seemingly, and then you show your players and yourself like, okay, that's what it looks like, guys. Like, we need to go do that. And so do you think that was the catapult, seeing that level of play from, what's the name of the school?
Clackamas.
Yeah. Seeing that level of play was the thing that kind of gave them the image. Because you could talk about what it's like till you're blue in the face, but until they see it, it's almost like they can't step into that level of greatness. Is that what you felt like was the motivating factor?
Yeah, playing them in the playoffs in the first round, our boys we were intimidated just by the sheer size of the school and the success they've had. I mean, they were well over 3,000 students, and now they've got a second high school in the town, and they've split the students up, but a much better, bigger school, more, ton of success, and we walked into that thing beat already. We just didn't believe we could win. So but walking away from it and that being the measuring stick of where we want to be, like having an entire off season, of stoking the flames, like talking about Clackamas and what they did to us, and that's where we need to be, and we need to be physical enough to play with those guys, and at the same time, there was a couple classes, my freshman sophomore class, that I knew were solid. They had some talent, better numbers in the past. I had some dudes, I knew I just needed to develop them and show them like, hey, like, you're capable of getting after a program like that. And so we were competitive with them, and I felt like we got after them, and we left camp going, hey, like, we could do some things this year. And so, but you need to face that level if you're ever going to get to that level, and I felt like my time in the Freeway League, like, the La Habra is always La Habra, and during that time, like, the Freeway League was gauntlet, man. It was Buena Park at its best. They were solid, and Pete had just come over to Sunny Hills, and he was doing a great job, and I felt like the competition elevated everyone, and playing that level of competition it makes you better. It puts the pressure on you in the off season to do elite things. So
that's great.
How are you helping your players get recruited? Are you using an expensive and outdated recruiting website or a boring spreadsheet? There's a better way. There's a better and more affordable option for you getting your players more college exposure. Story of the Season has launched their new Recruiting Profiles web platform. You can set up your custom team page and add player profiles within minutes. Everything about a player all in one click. Embedded highlights, headshots, stats, academic info, coach comments, huddle profile, socials, and contact info in every profile. Coaches have full control over their team and player profiles. Make edits and updates all season long in real time. Add assistant coaches to collaborate and edit together. Story of the Season is offering recruiting profiles for free until 2027, giving coaches a no-risk, no-commitment way to try them out. No credit card is needed. After the free trial, pay just $39.99 a month or become a Story of the Season Media Guide client and get recruiting profiles free forever. Elevate your team's recruiting without elevating your budget at recruiting.storyoftheseason.com. Check the description for a link.
So, Coach, you then transition that next year. You guys go 8-3, followed by the COVID year, which you guys ended up going 5-1. And I think there's a critical win in these 2 years. I don't know if you beat them 2 years in a row or 1 year. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it 2019 or 2020 where you beat Sherwood? Was that the last year you were there?
Yeah, that was the spring of 2021. And, after the 8-3 season, we had quite a bit coming back. And it's probably, they're a darn good football team. I don't want to say the best I've coached, but it's a shame that they didn't get a full season. It was a special, special group. And we opened the season up with Sherwood, which was our arch nemesis and, crosstown rival. And they were top dog. They kicked our butt every year. And
a state powerhouse.
Big powerhouse, yeah. And young community. I mean, I bought a home in the community and, there's a lot of talent in the community, and they were good. They were well coached, but we were able to knock them off game one. And it was a defensive battle. Like it was 14-9, I believe. And we intentionally took a safety to kick the ball off to them and win with our defense. And man, there wasn't a fan in the stands, but the intensity on the field was one of the highest I've ever coached in, man. So yeah, that was a huge win for the program, and we went on to win our 5 straight, and then played West Lynn, and they called it like the COVID Bowl. And so West Lynn is they're a top dog in the program, or excuse me, in the state, and they've been one of the top high schools in the state every year for the last, I'd say, 10 years. Them and Central Catholic are kind of ahead of everybody else, along with Tualatin. They're a solid program as well. But yeah, thinking back, that was the biggest win for Newburgh in quite a while, and it was a special win.
Yeah, and I remember talking to you during that time and how proud you were of that victory and how conflicted in the following months when you decided to move over, having built Newburgh into this powerhouse and getting the opportunity to coach in your backyard with your girls, going to, potentially going to school there. And if I'm not mistaken, Cole also got a job at Sherwood, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So your wife is teaching there, and so you move over. And I remember you breaking the news to your kids, and just through your perspective and how hard that was for you because of the great work that you guys had done together. And I remember you talking about when you played Newburgh at Sherwood, and you talked to the kids after the game, how it was nothing but love. And that was just really cool. But I want to fast forward to Sherwood. Now you get there. We talked about it in the pre-interview process here that you had, I think, 8 or 9 seniors in that class. Obviously, it had been a powerhouse, but now you're taking over this very young football team, and you start off 0-4, and you're at a program where there's this expectation to win. How did you stay the course? How did you navigate the struggles that were coming at you? And probably the pressure too that you felt from the community. How did you navigate that to stay the course and then turn it around to freaking go 7-5 that year?
Yeah, no doubt. It was tough, but going into the season, and I felt like the coaching staff and the community kind of, they knew it was going to be a tougher go around and tougher season, graduating 35 seniors, and they just knew it was going to be a small senior class, but we had some solid classes underneath them. So I would say that we just stayed the course. Like we just blocked out the noise and focused on building relationships and focused on the kids. because there was great kids in the program, and I didn't care if they were seniors or freshmen. I mean, we started a freshman offensive tackle, played every game for us. But just there was great boys there, and it was difficult at times, because of the success. And I brought back most of the assistants they've experienced a ton of success, and here we are starting out 0-4, and it was tough. There's no doubt about it. But we had a tough preseason schedule. I mean, Lake Oswego, North Medford, and yeah, just some tough. We had a tough schedule, and I knew that going into it. But I knew if we just stayed the course and focused on getting better every day, and I just preached to the kids. I said, "Hey, we are a good football team. We are a good team. It's just not showing yet on the scoreboard Friday nights." And I just credit to the boys; like they didn't lose sight on that. It was a high character group, and they stayed the course, and they believed in me. And we turned it around. Like our opening league game was against Newburgh, who was the favorite to win the league. I mean, they had, after that spring season when I was at Newburgh, I was, it was tough to leave those guys. I mean, and there was a great group coming back. It just came down to family first. It's my daughter's first. And so one of the toughest things I've had to do as a coach, that transition. But it was tough to coach against them in the game. But we were able to pull out a tight victory, and that kind of just flipped the switch for our season, and we just went on a 7-game win streak. And we just, we got knocked out of the playoffs by Central Catholic, who's a great program, and they went on to a state championship, and they mopped everybody up. But we gave them a battle. We scored some points on them, and we were proud of our efforts. And the season ended up being a great season. And we just had to stay the course and just focus on, like, when you stop focusing on relationships and like making kids better, then anxiety creeps in, stress creeps in, and you stop enjoying the job. I had to fight, definitely had to battle that, and felt like I won that battle that season. And so that was a big part of the turnaround, was just focusing day to day, like, how are we going to get better? Yeah. Coaching staff has got to believe in what we're doing. Kids got to believe in what we're doing, and everything's going to be fine. So
I love that. That's tremendous stuff, Coach. And as much as you feel at liberty to share, and you could pass on this question too, but was there a real struggle in the rebuild process at Sherwood where it was just tough? Like you just felt like, man, this is just a really crappy scenario. I only ask that because I know that a lot of coaches in the rebuild process get to this point where it's like, this just really sucks right now. There's not any way to sugarcoat this. This is really hard, and we just kind of have to press through. Do you have a memory like that? And if not, it's totally fine. And if you do, enlighten our listeners into, yeah, this is what it's like, and this is kind of how I navigated that.
Yeah, it's there's no doubt. Like when you follow a coach that's like Greg Lawrence, like he had a ton of success and did it for a long time, and like he's the face of the community. Like it was tough and I needed to focus on not filling his shoes and just be me, and I'm not going to coach. I'm not going to try and be Greg Lawrence or any other coach, and I followed an awesome coach at Capital, Todd Simmis, who is still teaching on campus. Like, I'm not Todd Simmis. I'm not Greg Lawrence. Like, I'm going to come in, and this is my program, and this is how I run my program, and you just need to believe in what you do and know what's important to you, and if you focus on that, then you're going to be fine. But yeah, Sherwood, there was definitely an opportunity to have sustained success at Sherwood. The position there was and the program was very healthy, and great classes coming up. And so the future looked extremely, extremely bright, and by the end of, my first season and getting into the off season, I felt like it was, yeah, this is going to be it. Like, this is going to be my program. And I had great coaches, and I was bringing on some new coaches, and it was building to where in the direction I wanted it to build. But it just other factors, it was just time for us we felt like we wanted to move and raise our girls in Idaho, and it was just a great family decision. And yeah, there was just other factors why we left Sherwood. Had nothing to do with football. It was more of a family decision. So
absolutely. Let's hit on that real quick. I just want our, listeners, the ones that are in the midst of a rebuild. Coach said something that's so critical, that we have to be who we are. And especially when you follow successful people, in your program that, everybody's going to say, oh, well, this is how we used to do it. This is how we used to do it. And you have to acknowledge, yeah, I get it, but that's just not how I do it. And so we have to give and take. And I think you did obviously an awesome job in that regard. Yeah. And so now we fast forward, we are moving our family to Idaho. And we, after a short stint as an assistant at Owyhee, we end up at Capitol following yet another legend. I think, as you called him, Coach Simmons. Is that his name?
Yeah, Todd Simmons. Yeah.
Simmons. And obviously the program at that time had fallen on hard times. Like the last 3 years before you had arrived, Coach Simmons had built a great program, and now you were tasked with resurrecting it. So talk about going into that program, Coach. What was the state of the program in general? What was the mindset, and what steps did you take to start to rebuild that program?
Well, very similar to Newberg. Like I shared earlier, was getting the kids in the weight room, training together, and seeing them every day in the weight room, and getting my off-season program going. And it was in a very similar state that Newberg was in, as far as just the program's fragmented. There's no structure in the off, and I'm talking off season. There's no structure. Like, the idea of off season was, show up in the summer, train hard in the summer, and play a season, and that's how it had been ran for a couple years. Like Todd, he was 2 years out when I took over, and a program, it takes a while. It takes time to build a program, but it takes no time at all for a program to fall apart and the wheels come off. And so, and like I said, Todd was there for 17 years, and he had some great seasons and has sustained success, which I respect tremendously. But Todd was big help on campus. He's still teaching on campus, and he shared with me that, hey, Capitol's it's a different high school. It used to be the biggest high school in the state. Now it's has the lowest enrollment in 6A. And the community has aged a little bit, but there's great kids there, good athletes. A lot of the track program is top notch. Basketball is very competitive, and so just kind of instilling the same thing that I did at Newberg and Troy, and just showing the kids that I care about them, I love them, I'm here for them. That I wanted to convey that as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And so just the structure, and I feel like when you put systems in place, like quality systems, and there's accountability, you have a chance for success. And so, like, getting the entire JV varsity team into second period weight training, get the entire freshman team into seventh period, like, now you have a system that's going to allow them to be successful, and you have a system to hold them accountable. We don't have control over, how many kids are coming to the school, or how big's your freshman class. Like, we just want to focus on what we could control, and that's getting principal or AD on our side, and to where we could have those classes that allows the program to train together and get better. So but Capital, it was tough to get coaches on campus as teachers. That was the biggest struggle, and I feel like that's, as a head coach, getting teachers in building on your staff is so valuable. And that was something I was not able to fix at Capital. I left there. I felt like the program was in a much better spot than when I showed up, but I was not able to build a staff that was full of teachers. And, now I'm at Meridian, and we have 9 teachers in building that are coaching varsity football. So I'm pinching myself right now. So,
Coach, you motivated me, because we did some work in the off season. We're able to get up to 8. I haven't shared with you yet, but we're at 8 teachers, potentially 9 teachers on campus at Troy now.
Awesome. And I hear Leem's one of them.
Come on. Yep.
Yeah.
Evan Leem Jr. We love it.
That's so awesome, man. Great for you and great for him.
Heck yeah. So, Coach, let's dive real quick into the wing tee and Capital. So, from my understanding, Capital had not been a wing tee team. Is that correct?
No, they're spread. Yeah,
And so, how did the kids take the transition from you? And how did you, and I know that we had talked about this in the past, how did you adapt your system to fit the needs of the kids, to fit the needs of the program and the community?
Yeah, and all I have is to compare it to the other programs I've been at: Troy, Newberg, Sherwood, and then Owyhee. I was an assistant, so I can't really use them. But it was probably the most resistance as far as like wing tee, and we had a ton more spread concepts at Capital. I mean, this last season, 2 all-state receivers. We had two receivers in the top 3 receiving this last year. So threw the ball quite a bit. And so the kids they love the spread. They're kind of suited for it as far as their strengths. I had a lot of hoopers, a lot of speed, not the 200-pound linebacker, fullback, tight end guys, that like a Yorba has, or a La Habra, but yeah, so there was definite resistance, but the kids bought into it a lot better than the parents. But you gotta cancel the noise out, man. But no, we were under center and we were shotgun, but I felt like we became predictable. This last season, we put up a lot of points, and I think we were second in the state in scoring. But I felt like we were predictable going from gun and under center, and so, and it's hard in my mind. It's hard to call an offense when you're running kind of two separate offenses in one versus under center, wing T. Like it's a simpler process, right? But I've had coaches tell me like it's nasty when you're doing both. So, but I feel like Capital was suited for the gun versus under center. Like we just didn't have a wing and a halfback that would stick his nose in there on belly. Like we were not a belly team, and I would be stupid if I'm a 150-pound halfback that, he's got all kinds of speed, so we ran a lot of fly, ran a lot of gut, just we stretched the field. And so, no, it was, we were more of a spread look at Capital.
And I think, Coach, what I want to hear from you too is talk about the discomfort that it put you through having to change and not change, I guess, to adapt your system to fit the needs, because I'm doing that right now. We have a great quarterback and we're having to spread it out far more for 2 needs to meet the need of our quarterback play and to overcome our opponents. But I am uncomfortable. It is, like you said, it is such a simple process for me to run straight wing and for me to call plays based off of, what I see, what I feel, what I know is happening. Whereas you're implementing a spread and you're having to shift back and forth, and it's a challenge. And I think on both of our parts, it places a lot of stress on us and discomfort, but we both know like it's not about me. Like this sucks. I don't necessarily like it. I'm not comfortable with it, but I know it has to be done. And so talk about embracing that discomfort for you for the betterment of your team.
Well, that's a tough one. I don't know if I have a good answer, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I really, I'm still trying to figure it out, but no, I do know I'm coming into a program where I'm not posed with the same challenge that you're posed. If I stayed at Capital, yeah, it's an ongoing problem, or like I need to find a solution for it.
Yeah.
And I go back to like, what's your identity? Who are you? What are you best at? Like as a coach, like, are you a stronger coordinator when you're doing just this? Or are you able to do both? Like, I just know, like, going into Meridian, we've got some hammers. Like, we got some guys that like to thump, and just looking at the guys, there's more alpha males type dudes that are going to be physical. It's a good feeling knowing that we got the deception of the wing tee, and we got a kick butt play action game. What I want to really get good at is throwing quick game under center. Just be deadly with the quick game under center. And that's something that a lot of wing tee programs don't put a ton of time into. And I've never put a big amount of time into that. And I feel like that's been a weakness of mine. And so we're going to add to the recipe. Like we're going to be sharp under center throwing the ball. And so just going back to like your roster and the type of kids you get, like, you're faced with a different challenge than me. But I know the feeling, like you want to maximize their talent. And when I was at Troy, I went back and forth under center, gun, did the same thing at Sherwood because we had the athletes and they fit what we were doing, and did the same thing at Capital. Like Newburgh and Meridian they're so much alike. And but hey, we do have a sophomore phenom receiver that in a couple of years we might look a little bit different, So I think you got to be open. I think you got to be open into like what's best for your roster, but stay as close to your core and who you are and what your strengths are. If I just ran the spread, I'll tell you this right now, if I just ran the spread and inside zone, outside zone, maybe like counter out of shotgun, I wouldn't be that good of a coach. Like, I just know the system, the wing tee system at a greater depth than the spread. I would be an average, just spread coach, and that's just looking in the mirror and asking yourself, what are you good at? What do you feel comfortable coaching?
Yeah.
So
I think that's awesome. And that's kind of like what I've kind of concluded. And I'm in process with you. This is a cathartic experience too, because, I look at when we beat La Habra and we had Vander, who's a Division I football player, and we had Declan Healy that year who got D1 offers. And we had them on the edge, and both of them were causing problems for La Habra corners and secondaries. So we had to throw the ball. If we didn't throw the ball well that game in the spread, we wouldn't have beat them. Conversely, if we weren't really good at the wing tee in the fourth quarter, we wouldn't have been able to run belly and belly pass the way that we wanted to close out the game, And so hard, I get uncomfortable with it because I know it's necessary for us to put our guys in a good position to win, but it doesn't feel clean for me. And that's a hard place. And it's not the right answer or wrong answer. It's just discomfort.
yeah. Well, I tell you what, like winning the Pacific Conference, the conference title when I was at Newburgh my last year, and then we won it at Sherwood my first year. The deciding factor in those two games was the ability to throw the ball.
Wow.
Because when I was at Sherwood, my first year when we beat Newburgh, open up conference play, we had just a stud receiver that we just threw vipers to him, and it was a difference maker to him for us. If we didn't do that, we wouldn't have won.
Yeah.
So if we were strictly under center and we didn't throw a go ball, and we're really good at it, and we wouldn't have won that game.
Yep.
So
tremendous, Coach. So obviously, Coach, you're going over to Meridian. We're so excited to see your career. I love it. I love when I get to talk to a coach as he's heading into a transition because I get to follow up, and obviously we're great friends. So I'm going to be talking to you all the time about it. But is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, kind of like an ethos, a DNA that you live by, that you want to encourage coaches that are taking over programs, that are trying to rebuild stuff, that you feel like, hey, man, I think this is one piece of advice I want to give you?
Yeah, I would just immerse yourself in whatever program that you're leading as fast as possible. Get to know the kids as fast as possible. Show them that you care about them, that you love them, and be that mentor that you always wanted your coach to be. Focus on just building men of character. And when you do that, then number one, you're going to enjoy the heck out of your job. You're going to love what you do, and you're going to build lasting relationships with your coaches, with your players. And that's what it's all about. And that's what you want to pass on to your players. And it's all about building relationships, creating great memories. And when you focus on the kids and you focus on making them better, then you're going to build something special. Yeah. And so that's what I want to focus on and continue to do. And, I'm blessed to have a great opportunity in front of me, and couldn't be more excited about the challenge and the journey that we're going to go on, and hope to do this for a long time. So thanks for having me on, Mike. I appreciate it. And, it's awesome to hear from you and all the success you're having at Troy, and coming off of just a phenomenal season. Just some special memories in my heart from Troy High School. It definitely made a lasting impact on my life. So
heck yeah.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Likewise, man. So appreciative of you, Coach, and can't wait to see the process at Meridian. And thank you so much for being on, man. And we'll be talking every month.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Turnaround Series presented by the Coach and Coordinator Network. At the Coach and Coordinator Network, we're committed to connecting you with coaches, systems, and ideas that help you build your program the right way. If this episode hit for you, take the next step. Dive into the platforms we mentioned today and continue learning from coaches who have been through it and built it. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next episode. We'll keep bringing you real conversations and real solutions for coaches working to turn programs around. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.